Very excited to start my Facebook Live in a little different context this morning. After my posts last week and after some of my videos got comments as well on my YouTube channel, Mark Rothman Progress Coach, one of the comments I got was, tell us about the posters behind you on the wall. So today we're going to take a quick tour through several of the posters that are here. We're going to cover the continual forward progress, the 9 components of continual forward progress. We're going to go quickly through the 10 domains. There's a lot here that could be its own Facebook Live post for many weeks to come, as well as in all the different components. We're going to talk about the remarkable measure, and we're going to talk about the remarkable truth. Many of these were developed from my mentor coach, Paul Vielik, and the remarkable practice, TM. He's trademarked it, and used with permission, of course. And they're incredibly powerful tools that can help us orient our lives. Now, the remarkable practice itself was oriented directly towards a practice for men's self-leadership. So it's oriented to that section of the population, but it is also a really important measure that I think all of us, regardless of our gender and gender identity, can find meaningful in our lives. So I want to be clear that I'm speaking to everybody when I talk about particular practices, even if they were developed for focus on men specifically. I'm going to start with the 9 components of continual forward progress. You can actually see a video on this on my YouTube channel, Mark Rothman Progress Coach, where called the 9 Steps to Achieving Anything, where I go into some detail on what the different components are. But very quickly here, just to talk about them, whenever we want to make progress, whenever we want to move forward in any area of our lives, there are these 9 components or 9 aspects of it that need to be in in alignment, A-L-I-N-G, and not in a line like we line up at the post office. They need to be in alignment. We need to be clear on them. They need to be focused. We need to make sure that we're engaging all of these, because that's really what constitutes our progress. And to talk through them, the first one is our vision. What is it we want to achieve? Where do we want to go? You can't make progress if you don't know where you're going. You can move, you can travel. And again, I talk about this in my video. There's a lot of things you can do that look like progress. You could go at 180 miles an hour in a Ferrari, and you're going somewhere, but are you making progress towards the goal that you have, that is where you want to be, that is what you want to achieve in your life? So you have to have that vision of what you want to achieve. And a vision can be something, it's usually bigger than just a specific goal, like I want to get into college, or I want to find a job. That's a very important goal. That's a tactic. But the vision is, what's that going to give you? I want to find a job so that I can be fully self-supporting, that I can support my family. That's a vision of me as a provider to my family, for example. That's the vision. Commitment. We have to be willing to be invested in that goal. We can't choose a vision and then at the first sign of challenge or obstacle, we have, step back and say, oh, that's too hard. I guess that vision's not important. We need to be committed to it. And it needs to be pretty much the most important thing in our lives, that we will go through anything to accomplish. And that can manifest itself in different ways. It can express itself in different ways, but we've got to have that fire. And if we don't have that fire, by the way, that's a pretty good sign that we need a different vision, or we need a bigger vision or a better vision. And so that's an area that in my practice as a progress coach, we talk about a lot, is your commitment in line with your vision? Is your vision in line with your commitment? The next one is a logical plan. We have to have a plan for where we're going. Otherwise, we don't know. The greatest example is if we want to get somewhere, we need directions. That's a logical plan. We go here, we go there, we turn right, we turn left, and we get to where we're going to go. By the way, that doesn't have to be the finalized plan. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan. It could start as simply as just 3 bullet points on a cocktail napkin, but it's a plan. We also need a timeline. What's a reasonable timeline for when we're going to accomplish certain things? Again, if we're driving somewhere, a reasonable timeline is, okay, we're leaving today, we're leaving now, it's 9 a.m. in Los Angeles. In 3 hours, I'm going to stop for lunch. That's a timeline. How long will it take me to get to a certain place? Or how long will it take me to accomplish a certain step on my process to achieving my vision? Milestones and measures is what that achievement looks like. If I want to send out a certain number of emails to introduce myself to people, I may send out 500 emails, okay, over a certain period of time. A timeline that may take, if I send 5 emails a day, it might take 10 days, 100 days, sorry. But each of those 5 emails is a milestone. I know I've hit that, a measure of my progress. Community is a really important part of our forward progress, because without being connected to a community, if we're just alone, doing it by ourselves, we're going to be pushing the boulder a lot harder than we have to. Community can give us perspective. It can give us wisdom. It can help us when we lose confidence, when we do hit a wall and we question our commitment. Community can reinvigorate us. And community can look like anything. It can look like having a mentor coach. It can look like having a club or team of people who are doing similar things to us. It can be through YouTube. It can be through Facebook. That's a community of people that we connect to and gain inspiration, wisdom, and encouragement from, and provide it back in return. Challenge, risk, and new skills. If we're not challenging ourselves in some way, if we're not taking some risk and working to acquire new skills, then we're really not progressing, are we? We're kind of just doing the same old, same old. And if that's the case, then we got to ask ourselves, it comes all the way back to our vision, is the vision really one for progress? Or are we blinding our vision and just saying, yeah, staying in the same place is what I want to do? That's not really a vision, that's more of a maintenance plan. Failure. Well, you can't have challenge, risk, and new skills without failure, because anytime we take on anything new, anytime we push the envelope of what we've done before, we're going to experience failure. And it can be a very minor failure, like you can try a new workout, you try and lift a new weight and you fail. You can't lift that much, so you got to retrench a little bit, step back. Or it can be bigger. The thing is that we are terrified of failure, and I have a video about that on my YouTube channel as well. Say thank you when you fail, because every failure is a discovery and a learning opportunity. And it's only our ego and our sense of ourself that says failure is a bad thing and I'm terrified of it. But actually failure can be the supercharger. It's like the nuclear reactor of energy that can propel us forward. Ask anyone who succeeded on a huge scale, and they'll tell you my failures were far more valuable to getting me where I am today than my successes. And then the last one is trust the process. And I want to come back to the idea of what's first and last in this list. But trusting the process is critical, because that's the challenge that we face when we face an obstacle. If our goal is to send out 500 emails and we're doing 5 a day, wow, am I ever going to get there? 100 days to do this? Boy, that sure seems like a long time. Well, we have to trust the process by doing 5 today and 5 tomorrow and 5 the day after. Or getting back to the weight room analogy, lifting 5 pounds today is going to lead to 7 pounds in a month, is going to lead to 10 pounds in 3 months. We got to trust the process. Now, and then the last comment to say about these is, do they have to be happening in this order? Absolutely not. It's like the alphabet in the dictionary. The A words aren't the better words than the Z words. Acceptance is not better than gratitude just because it comes sooner in the dictionary. You got to organize in some way in order to in order to be able to understand it. And yeah, I think vision is really critical. It may need to be the first one because we need to know where we're going. But over time, all of these connect with each other and feed on each other. You need vision. You need trust. You need to trust the process when you're holding your commitment. That's a big part of it. You need to have community sometimes when you're defining your vision, because that can help clarify where you are. You can use your community to really test you and ask you questions and help you really understand what your vision is. So those are a few examples. That's a really quick summary of the 9 components of continual progress, continual forward progress. I'm looking at these 10 domains. You can get more information about the Remarkable Practice at forremarkablemen.com. That's FOR remarkablemen.com. And real quickly, our lives can be organized, our identities, who we are as people and as men, can be broken into 10 specific domains. Our domain of self, our domain of our health, our domain of home, work, money, relationships, creative, fun, spiritual, and purpose. And each of these domains break down into smaller subdomains. We can help understand our domain of self, for example, by our self-care, our self-time. What's our self-worth? One of the most challenging questions I ever ask my clients is for them to define their self-worth. Very difficult for a lot of men, and I think for a lot of women as well. Our health, we can look at that and estimate it, understand it. Are we getting enough exercise, enough sleep? What does it mean to really own our health? I work with a man who, his health may not be the strongest, but does that mean he doesn't have ownership? It means, if somebody is struggling with a condition, God forbid somebody's suffering from cancer, does that mean they don't have ownership over their health if they are getting the chemo treatments they need, if they are preparing for radiation, if they are taking care of themselves in the best way they can when those horrible symptoms that follow chemotherapy come along? This is not necessarily, we look at health, am I healthy or am I not healthy? It's not always just a value judgment of am I healthy or not, but am I owning my health? We can need to attend to our health more, but we can be taking ownership, and that can be a strength within our health domain, for example. Our home, do we have a power center? Do we have a place? Are we connected to our roots? And that's not just a physical place, of course, but that's our history as well. That helps connect us to home as well. Work, do we have purpose? Are we engaged in a career? Or is it a job? Are we finding meaning? And maybe we have a job, and that's a perfectly valid, a really powerful thing to do for a lot of reasons. But if we find meaning in that, if we can connect to that, well then, yeah, maybe that is part of a career, or it is part of our leadership, either of the people we work with or of ourselves, to find meaning in whatever we're doing. Our money, how are we related to it? Again, another area that is really challenging for a lot of people. Do we love money? Do we hate money? Do we have a contentious and argumentative relationship with it? Or is money one of our best friends? Is it this unending energy of in this circuit of energy? Money comes in, money comes out, and along the way it gives me energy to do so many things, and I get that energy back. That's part of our authority. And I'm really sort of just throwing a lot of ideas out here that all need to be examined more precisely. But are we really owning our money? Do we know what our bank balance is? Are we keeping track of it properly? Are we using it effectively? Do we know, this is a hard thing right now. Do we know all of those apps on our phones that maybe every month or every 6 months or year are draining $2.99 in memberships that, we weren't really paying attention to? That's an example of authority. Our relationships, how are we in connection to our men in our lives, the women in our lives, our friends, our community, our tribe, of course, our sexual relationships, all very important part of it. Creative, big area of deficit for a lot of people. Are we building? Are we developing new things? Are we engaging in ideas, that energy of innovation, of an idea of like, are we really experiencing that? Are we having fun? Again, an area that's so easy to ignore and hard for us to find. Components of it are discovery. Are we discovering new things? Are we experiencing sort of that freedom that we have when we're laughing and we're light and we're not taking ourselves seriously? Our spiritual domain. very important. It connects in so many ways to so many of these others. Are we engaged in gratitude for where our lives are? Are we connecting with our faith? Trust the process, by the way, is a kind of faith statement. And we can have a lot of faith just in the daily actions it takes for us to move forward in our lives. That's a sign of faith by itself. Even if we're not feeling like we're very spiritual, if we're taking those actions of faith that, okay, doing my job today is going to lead to this goal tomorrow, is going to lead to the achievement of that goal tomorrow, that's an act of faith by itself. And again, it's the other domain that engages our authority. Are we really owning our spirituality? Are we in control of it? Are we the author of it as well? Authority has the word author in it, meaning we're writing and defining it the way we want it to be. And lastly, our purpose, which starts off with our food, shelter, and clothing, FSC. We've got to be self-sufficient people in order for us to fulfill any of those domains. And so part of our purpose is to provide that for ourselves. And then providership, if we're in a family or a partnership, to provide it for other people as well. And then lastly, connected with purpose, is our higher purpose. Are we connected to something larger than ourselves? Are we building a legacy? Are we moving towards a larger impact for our lives and the work that we're doing and the connections, the relationships that we have? Are we using our money to fulfill our purpose, our higher purpose, for instance? So all of these domains relate to each other. There is a progress, there is kind of a growth that happens as we move through them in order, climaxing with our purpose and our connection to our higher purpose, but we need to look at all those domains simultaneously as well. Then the last two things I want to talk about are the remarkable measure, which might be a little hard to read from where the camera is, but one of the biggest scams in life is the idea of perfection. I've got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. Because why is it a scam? Because it's a lie. There is no such thing as perfection. No matter how perfect you've made something, you're always going to find, oh, I could have done one more thing. I could have done this a little bit differently. What if whatever your thing is, I could have gone another step. And so how do we get out of that loser's game of holding ourselves to perfection? It's with the remarkable measure. Instead of being perfect, are we proud of what we created? Or if that's not really the level we've achieved, is it owned? Because being owned is respectable. It is remarkable. We can stand with dignity on owning something. Is it good enough? Doing something good enough is far better than doing something not at all. And I think one of the reasons perfection is such a loser's game is because it stops us in our tracks, right? We let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And so if we take that out of the equation and if we just really focus on being good enough, well, that gets us over the bar of not contributing. And now we're in motion. Now we're progressing. Now we're giving something back to the world. Is it owned? Maybe not. Is it proud? Maybe not. But it's good enough for now, and we have the possibility to reach these other levels of the measure. And then, of course, there's unowned, which is critical to us understanding where we are not engaged in our lives, where we need to devote more attention and focus, where we're not remarkable. Where are we unowned in our domains, for example? Where are we proud? Where are we good enough? Where are we owned? And the last thing from the remarkable truth, from the remarkable practice, is the remarkable truth. Everything I do, say, think, and feel creates the events, stories, people, and results in my life. I'm going to read that again. Everything I do, say, think, and feel creates the events, stories, people, and results in my life. That means that all of our energy, everything that we're putting out, everything that we're telling ourselves internally is creating, manifesting, bringing to life in the outside world our lives, what's happening to us. So it unlocks a tremendous amount of power when we realize what we can accomplish, when we start working to focus everything we think and do and feel in the direction of where we want to go. That kind of brings all of these signs that are on the wall behind me into one focus, because they're all about techniques, practices, ideas, concepts, contexts that we can use so that what we do, say, think, and feel are creating the events that we want, they're bringing the people in our lives that we want, and they're bringing the results that we want. So thanks for being with me. This one went a little bit over the 15 minutes. See you again next week. Check out my webpage, markcoach.net, and my YouTube page, Mark Rothman Progress Coach. I'll see you next week.